the Great American Little Town podcast. Well, thank everybody for joining in tonight. We have a very good show planned tonight. We have a very special guest, as you can see here with us. We have Miss Leticia Ordaz. You may know her as the news reporter from Channel 3, news anchor, news reporter. She's wore many hats through her career with Channel 3. So thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight. I know you have a very busy schedule. She was just saying she was up at 2 a.m. this morning to start her day. Jeez. I feel bad now because when I left to work at 2 today, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to go home and just take like a little 15-minute nap so I can be recharged for tonight. And yeah, so anyways, so we'll be talking with Leticia here in a little bit about some cool stuff with that. She's also a children's book author. And so we've brought some of those and we're going to be talking about that. There's a lot of things you probably don't know about her. And so we'll be having a great conversation with her. So stay tuned, and we'll be having a trivia later on and giving away a cool prize as well. So stick around.
And I like how we can tie her into Galt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be very cool.
Roots here.
Want to say hello to Ruben and see if Ruben's logged in. Thanks for joining us, Ruben. So what's the big news today? Did you see that James Vanderbeek, the actor, died today?
Yeah.
48 years old. Yeah. You know, when you see that, you think, when I see actors, and not just actors that are younger than me, but when I see actors die, it just for some reason, like, just makes you feel really old, because it's like, do you ever notice an actor, Leticia, where do you ever have like an actor where you think anytime somebody says their name, you always picture them as like a certain role in a certain movie at a certain age? They're just like frozen in time in that age, right?
Yes, absolutely. You're like, what happened?
Especially ones that don't like Clint Eastwood has done like later movies into his golden years, right? But actors that don't really haven't really been active, and then you see them in like a tabloid, or you see them and they're like, oh my God, look how old that person is. You're like,
they're never supposed to age.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I just saw him on such and such movie, like, and you're like, oh, that was in 1987. Okay, never mind.
Well, I think too, somebody like him, where, you know, the show that he became a star in was in the 90s. And that was kind of a coming of age for a lot of us, as far as like getting into adulthood and stuff like that. And so, you know, if it was a show that you watched and then have him die, it's like, no, wait a minute. What, you know, that was just a couple years ago. He was on TV, but actually it was, you know, we don't remember how fast time goes.
Has time, you know, speaking of that, I saw on your social media page, I was looking through your page, just trying to learn some things about you. And I saw you posing with Stan Atkinson before he passed away.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I was like, I remember growing up, he was like one of the news. He was like the news guy. Yeah. So I saw that, and I didn't know I think I did know that he had passed, but seeing that picture, and, you know, obviously he was very old in the picture, I was just like, wow, just where has the time gone? You know,
when Jennifer used to work at Gore's, the baby store in Sacramento. Yes. Yeah. She would always talk about how all the channel newscasters would come in, especially Channel 3. And so I was in there one time waiting to pick her up after work. We were going to go out of town or something.
Yeah.
And Stan came in to buy a baby gift for somebody. And I remember just like, you know, you're looking at a guy that's a legend, right? I mean, like, he was the Walter Cronkite of us for this area,
of the local area.
Oh, yeah. Man, I mean, whenever, you know, when Stan Atkinson was on, you watched him, you trusted him, you believed in him, you liked him.
Because when we grew up, I mean, you know, I know everybody knows how old Dan and I, we're like relics compared to this young lady, but you know, we didn't have like all the news sources that we have now. We didn't have the internet. Right. You didn't have like 7,000 cable news stations. There was like Channel 3, Channel 40, news. Channel 10, 13, and that was it. I mean, that was all there was. That's where all your news came from.
Morning, my grandparents had a black and white TV on above their refrigerator, and at lunchtime when we were on a farm, and so at lunchtime you stopped to have lunch, and Grandma and Grandpa would turn the news on, and you'd sit at the counter and eat your lunch and watch the news every day, and it was always Channel 3. Always Channel 3.
That's how it was for me growing up as well.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was important. It was important to see those were your times of the day to see what was going on in the world. You know, like you said, Sean, we didn't have the instant thing, and
didn't have instant news, didn't have, you know, news being fed, you know, pushed to your phone where you can see like every little thing when it happens. You didn't even find out stuff till like literally that night when you turned on the news, you knew what happened that morning or whatever. Yeah. So Ruben says, by the way, I live across the street from Leticia's parents here in Galt.
Well, hello, Ruben. Thanks for watching us.
Yeah. So before we get on to some more conversation with Leticia, we want to cover some other stuff. So we have some stuff going on in town we wanted to mention. We have a lot of community events. We're going to throw those flyers up in here in just a moment. But I wanted to remind everybody about the big planning commission meeting tomorrow night. It's at City Hall. It starts at 6 o'clock, Dan?
Yeah.
6 p.m. This is the commercial project, what we're calling the Simmerhorn Ranch commercial project across the highway. It's 40 acres, 40 some odd acres. This is the project that, possibly could have the Mavericks gas station. There's also been talk of course, the other food restaurants that you all heard of. So this is that project. So it's a big deal. I expect attendance to be high. If you want to know about the project, you want to see what transpires, come out to the planning commission meeting. You can speak if you want to speak on it.
If people want to see what we're talking about and looking at and deciding on tomorrow, they can go on the City of Galt's page, web page, and go to agendas or go to meetings, click on the planning commission meeting, look at the agenda. The same information that I have in my packet is the same information that's available to the public.
Right.
There's nothing,
Yeah.
So, and I encourage everybody to take a look at it. If you're in favor of it or you're opposed to it, either way, come to the meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock and voice your, voice your voice.
There's a public comment period in the beginning. You can speak in favor of it or in opposition to it.
Either way.
It's a public meeting. This is a public process. We're not going to dive into the ins and outs of the project because Dan is on the planning commission and he has to kind of save his conversation for the meeting. But I promise you next week, we will do a definite debrief on what transpired at that meeting on this show. So we're going to share some flyers up now, some things going on in the city. If Keelan can cue something up there and I'll talk about it. So one of them is the new program. This is a really cool thing. It's called Real World Ready, and it's something that Parks and Recreation is doing. And it is can we throw that on the big screen or no? You can't? Okay, because I can't see it over there. It is a class that's for life skills for young adults. So it's on Wednesdays. It's the second and fourth Wednesday beginning on the 25th of February. It costs $25 for 5 visits. And some of the skills they'll be teaching young kids or young adults will be income tax concepts, how laws are made, managing money and credit, job search skills, and home and health hobbies. So these are things that may or may not be taught in some of the classes they have at school. I think this is great.
I was going to say that's the stuff that should be taught at school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life skills is what.
Because remember, like in like was it like home ec or whatever, where they would teach you like a check? I mean, no, a lot of people don't use checkbooks anymore, but I mean, that was stuff they used to teach you. I don't even know if they do that anymore.
I still have my checkbook.
Yeah. Well, me too.
For certain things.
Right?
Yeah. But this is a great thing. This is people always say, oh, Parks and Rec doesn't do anything. Parks and Rec does so much stuff. And so we're going to start showing more of the things that they're doing. And this is one of them. Well, it's funny is it says how laws are made. Obviously they didn't watch Schoolhouse Rock.
Right.
Remember the Mr. The Bill?
The Bill.
And he says, I'm a Bill. Remember that cartoon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways. All right. So our next thing we got going on in the community is going to be the city's shred event. So if you have papers that you want shredded, this is a free event. It's on the 11th of April. And I'm not sure the location of it, but you can go to the city social media and it's on there, or you can look on the city's website. I've seen it advertising on there. So you could just show up, and I don't know how much you're allowed to bring, but I think it's a lot, and they'll shred it for you for free. So, so you don't have some stuff fall into the wrong hands.
Some of those old checkbooks.
Yes.
Yeah. Those old checkbooks. Yeah. Yep. Those old ledgers.
Yeah.
For people like me, I have a big ledger. Yeah. And then we have a huge event. We're going to be talking about this as we lead up to it, but the extravaganza, this is the Galt Historical Society. This is a huge event they do every year. It's at McFarland Living History Ranch. If you don't know where McFarland Ranch is, it's at the end of Orr Road. It's from 9 to 2. This is a big, huge Easter event. It's extravaganza and kite days. So there'll be flying kites, there'll be Easter egg hunts, all kinds of pie eating contests, crafts. There's pictures with the Easter bunny. There's an egg drop. They do like a egg drop, and it's sponsored by Walmart, Cal Waste, F and Bank. Super, super cool, fun event. Don't miss it. Saturday, April the 4th. And next we have when
is Easter? Is it Easter April 5th? Is that the day before Easter?
Is April one of those days that's always, is it the first Sunday in April?
Yeah, I think it's the 5th this year, isn't it?
I think so.
believe
I think
it
that's
is,
the
yeah.
day before Easter then.
Yeah. So yeah, they're
That'd be good.
yeah. Well, they're not going to have it on.
Oh,
Easter
good
'cause-
weekend event though. I mean, get out
Yeah.
the day before and do something with the kids.
Yeah,
and-
the kids will be all done with eggs after that whole
right.
weekend.
Yeah.
So Galt Bible Church is having a wild game feed. I'm not really sure what that is, but I was asked to share this. So you can go online. I'm sure you could Google it or look up Galt Bible Church Wild Game Feed. It's on March the 14th. So it's kind of a little ways away, but we just thought we'd start mentioning it. If you want to find more information, you can email secretary@galtbiblechurch.org.
That's the day before my 1-year anniversary. So I wonder if that'd be a good thing to take Jen for and say, this is our anniversary dinner. And
You're like, honey, I love you so much. We're going to go eat wild game. She's going to be like,
That's
oh,
how
you're
we're gonna
so
celebrate.
sweet.
Yeah.
You're so sweet.
Yeah, I might get in trouble for that one.
You never know.
And then we have the St. Martin Foundation. This is one of our sponsors, Mr. Mark Jackson from the Next Generation Barbershop. He's one of our sponsors. Thank you again for your sponsorship, Mark, of our show. But he has a nonprofit foundation called the St. Martin Foundation. They do great things in the community, and they have an apostate and bingo night. It is the 4th time they've done this. It's on the 21st of February. It's 40 for adults, 25 for children. I will be there. So if you want to come and have some great pasta and play some bingo, have some good time, it's at the Littleton. And you can find this flyer also online. We'll also post it on our social media on Great American Middletown on Instagram. You can find it there. And then we have the Valentine's paint nights. Now this is something you should take your woman to right here.
Yeah.
That sounds
This
fun.
is Friday, February the 13th. So this Friday is from 6 to 8. It's called Valentine's paint nights. It's at the Color Wheel.
Oh, right over here on 4th Street.
Yeah, the Color Wheel is a new business. We're gonna have we're hoping to get the owner of the Color Wheel on our show so we can talk about her business,
Yeah,
because
that
that place
good
is
things
awesome.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that place is awesome, and they've partnered with Parks and Rec to do like these cool events.
Mhm.
And so again, Parks and Rec being involved in the community. So that's this weekend. Actually, it's 2 days. It's on Valentine's Day and on Friday. So it's Friday and Saturday from 6 to 8. So check out Color Wheel. I'm gonna remind everybody we have a first Saturday market. Have you ever been to our Saturday market, Leticia? The one we do?
No, I work Saturdays, so
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's pretty
that
important
sounds
now.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started, we've had the Galt Flea Market forever, but we do a Saturday market, it's all of Old Town.
Oh, fun.
And it's a different kind of thing. It's more like, like boutique vendors, not like vendors like you see at the flea market that are kind of regular. This is like people coming out on the weekends selling things. We have a bunch of local nonprofits and things that set up and do things, but they're all themed. So each month Parks and Rec does a different theme. Like one of them is called Touch a Truck. So they bring in all kinds of cool, like heavy equipment trucks, fire trucks, police vehicles, and the kids are allowed to climb around the vehicles and play with the lights and all that. And it's just like a real kid oriented event. And then they have one that's in the fall, and they have one that's like an Independence Day.
First Saturday every month.
The first Saturday of every month. It's this
March through
this
November
is
or something.
the third year. This is the third year we've done it. We started it 3 years ago.
What time is it? Mornings or evenings?
Yeah, it runs from the morning it's from 9. Yeah, 9 to 3.
Yeah.
No,
9 to 3. Yeah. So it started with it actually started from, the council approved this, but I want to say that. So there was a fellow council member and I, who's no longer on the council, but he and I were really pushing the city to look at doing weekend operation for the Galt Flea Market. We feel like the Galt Flea Market is running like an old business model by doing Tuesday, Wednesday, and we feel like we would be doing much better if we transition to a weekend. The staff was very resistant to that because, when you're running 50 something years in the same business
Sure.
model, they're like, oh, we don't want to rock the boat. So they came up with this concept. Well, let's start a Saturday market just to test the viability, because people were like, well, there's sports on Saturday and people have all this stuff. Nobody's going to come. It's going to be, and basically they wanted to prove to us that they think it was viable. It was a huge success.
It's great.
Okay. And so we renewed it for a second year. We upped the budget and now we're on year 3.
Is that like the Midtown Farmers Market in
It's
Sacramento?
kind of like that.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
have the big one on Sunday, but then on Saturday you have the
Mhm.
smaller one.
Yep. It's kind of like that. And it's really cool. And it's all 4th Street down by, from Velvet Grill, basically all the way up to Brewster's, the whole section right there. So that's March 7th. The season starts up in March. It's the first one of the year. It runs from March to November. So also the Galt Youth Commission, which I am a liaison for, they are accepting applications for scholarships. The Galt Youth Commission is giving away a bunch of money for scholarships for Liberty Ranch and Galt High School. And I think they're going to take video applications this year. That's what we decided on doing. So if you want to
Nice.
apply, start watching for that on social media. And and apply for that so we can get some good money in the hands of some potential college students.
A lot of busy going on, isn't there?
There's a lot going
Yeah,
on in Galt.
yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
My little town has grown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. So is that it? Is that for it? All right. Well, that wraps up our local events.
Did you participate in the Light to Shine or Night to Shine this weekend? Or
I am going to participate. Do you know what
Is that
Night to
this
Shine
week?
is?
I've heard of it.
So Night to Shine is the thing that was started by the Tim Tebow Foundation. He was the football player that played for the
okay,
the
yes.
ex-quarterback. So what it is, it's all for special needs. It's like a prom for special needs.
Oh, how special.
And it's all on a certain date, but they do it across schools all across the nation. Like hundreds of schools participate all on one night. And so it's been hosted at Galt High School for 2 years in a row now. It's the first time it's ever
That's
been at Galt. It was
awesome.
always in Lodi.
And it's kids from everywhere that get to come, not
Yeah.
just Galt.
So the special guests are the kids. Some of them are actually young adults, but they're all special needs of some sort. And they're what they call the special guests. And then you have buddies, which a buddy is like a chaperone or a person that goes with them. And so you can volunteer. So I volunteered last year for the first time, and it was amazing. And so I'm going to go again this year. I'm actually going to buddy. My friend has a daughter, Natalie O'Neill. She's special needs. And so I'm going to go with her. And so it is so huge, Leticia. They literally have like hundreds of limos, hundreds.
That is so cool.
That come and they pull up on this huge red carpet thing, and everybody gets picked up. And then when they roll up to the Galt High School, they have a huge red carpet that goes into the event, and they know which limo has which people in it. So when you pull up and you get out, there's people there with signs that says the kid's name on it, and they're waving it, and you like, wow, it's so cool. Like you're like, the first time I walked, I was like overwhelmed.
You're like red carpet. Like I feel like I'm in Hollywood.
No, it's like that. No, it's absolutely like that. And so they have a huge like dance in there with a DJ, and they have food that's catered from everywhere. And it costs hundreds and thousands, maybe even millions of dollars to put this on, but they raise all the money, and it simultaneously happens at all these schools across the nation
I love it.
every year. It's
Great idea.
really
when is
great.
that?
It's Friday night.
This
the
Friday.
the day after tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had to
Coming
go out and figure out. So Natalie and I are going to do like a little bit of a kind of an 80s dress. We're not going to be real formal. Like we're both wearing matching Vans
Oh, I love that.
sneakers, and she has a pink dress, and I have like a black dress shirt, and I have like a pink tie that matches her dress. So it's kind of like an 80s like type of thing.
Sounds like Miami Vice or something like
Well,
that. Like,
I was like, we don't want to be all stuffy and like dressed up with suits and stuff. It's like, just go and have fun. She's like, yeah, she's fun. So
So everybody just dances like in a group.
these kids, these kids know how to have a good time. Let me tell you, like I was amazed. Like it's like the whole place is just, I have video from last year, the whole gym at Galt High. I don't even think the real prom looks like that at Galt High. Yeah, it's amazing. So Night to
Love that you're doing
Shine.
that.
If you want to volunteer for Night to Shine next year, please do, because they need people. They were actually 10 or 15 people short, I think, last I heard. And so I don't know if they were able to. Yeah, see, Ruben, I think, goes to it too. Ruben says Dadley's a wonderful friend and her parents are fabulous. Yeah. Yeah, good people.
Great.
So,
have you read The Legal?
oh no, I gotta do this. Yeah. He always makes me do the boring stuff. I want to remind everybody that the Great American Little Town podcast is a not-for-profit, not associated with the city of Galt. And although Dan and I hold certain positions within the city, we are not a spokesperson or a platform from the city. So everything we talk about and statements that we make and statements that our guests make are not a reflection of the city's feeling on any matters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So
Close enough.
Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, good job. Good enough for it's for. All right. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest again so we can talk with her. Miss Leticia, actually, so it's Leticia Gomez Ordaz.
No Gomez.
Gomez? I thought it was on your, no?
Or does.
Okay. I thought I saw on your Facebook page you had like your I don't
What?
know.
Oh, maybe my married last name?
Yeah.
Perhaps? Okay.
Okay, there. Yeah. Anyways, sorry. So anyways, so we want to welcome you to the show. And again, I know you're super, super busy. So we appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
And so where'd you grow up at, Leticia? Tell us.
I grew up in Galt, greatest
Yeah.
American little town.
That's
Yes.
right. Yep.
Bet you guys didn't know that. I mean, some of you.
Went to kindergarten here and all the way through high school.
So did you go to Fairsight
I
or
went to
Valley
both
Oaks?
schools actually. We ended up moving homes, and so when we switched neighborhoods,
Oh,
So-
I went to both schools.
So
Okay.
her older sister was in my grade, and so I went to school with her in Fairsight for a couple of years, and then I was talking to somebody today that went to school with Jennifer, and they went to Valley Oaks, and they're like, "Well, we went to school with her sister." And I said, "Well, I don't
How
know."
did that work?
Like, yeah, now that makes sense.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we switched
Okay,
schools. So
all right.
yeah, I got to experience both schools and the great teachers at both
Yeah.
schools.
Nice.
Middle school. Remember going to middle school?
Galt
when
Middle?
it's
Was it
now
Galt Middle?
Galt Middle School, but now it's the Save Mar. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I remember Galt Middle. Yep. I didn't go to
You
school.
were probably one of the last classes that graduated from there,
Yeah.
or maybe the year after. The year after might have been the last class.
It was
that
a big
graduated from
deal.
there.
I remember.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
you were, because I actually thought that they bulldozed all that and built the Save Mart around like 90. Are you sure? I could have swore. No, it couldn't have been.
I was class of 93.
No, that's right. I'm sorry, because I'm thinking middle school versus high school. Yeah.
But I know that you were class of 95 from Galt High, right?
94.
94.
94.
Okay. All right. I thought you were 95.
Yeah, I think they bulldozed that and built Save Mart in 1991, if I recall, or 90. It was 90 or 91.
Okay.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I
So it
actually
should've been right around there then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Somewhere around there.
And then we only had that one we only had Galt High School when,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
Yeah.
but now
Yeah.
you have another high school.
Now we have two high schools. I mean,
Growing.
well, the problem is Galt was growing a lot in 1990. And so, we were like, everybody thought that based on the data that they had and everything, that Galt was going to be like 50,000 people by the year 2020. And so they said, we got to build another school. We're Galt High School is almost at capacity. It's going to be too big, or, and so on. And then I think there was talks about maybe expanding Galt High, because they do have some room to do that, but they thought that would only be a temporary fix, because ultimately we're going to need another school. So they built Liberty Ranch School. But to be honest with you, sadly, right now, so when Galt High was at its maximum, it had 1,900 students. Okay. Right now we have less than 1,000 students at each high school.
Really? So you could have done it with one? What's
Well,
the population in Galt now?
So the population of Galt actually peaked in 2016, and then it declined through COVID. And now we're at like 25.8, just under. So we're actually not even back to what we were originally at a height. Is that hard to believe?
I know, because when I grew up here, I think it was 18,000.
Probably.
Or that's
yeah.
what I saw on the signs driving by.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. So there's this perception in Galt, because you see this building going on with houses, that Galt's like blowing up and we're gonna we're gonna need to do all this stuff. But the reality is, and I think this is a good time for me to share this, because I think you would find this fascinating. But I was telling Dan earlier today. So I was at a meeting called CAST, which is Cities and Schools Together. So we meet every quarter, and there's a couple council members, and we meet with both the superintendents from the elementary and the high school, and then we have board members, the police chiefs there, the city managers there, and we talk about things that overlap, like what can so we can all work together, the city and the schools.
Absolutely.
We talk about school safety, like we talk about like, for example, one of the updates we got is that the Galt PD will be doing an active shooter training at Liberty Ranch this year. They did it at Galt actually do that, so they're familiar with the campuses. So that,
important.
yeah, absolutely. Hope that they'll never have to use that, but we just want to be prepared for things that could bad that could happen. But one of the things they update us is on enrollment and stuff. And so right now, they were saying that our middle school, we only have one middle school in Galt. Our middle school by the year 2032, which is 6 years from now, is expected to only be at 65% capacity. And people really think that we need another middle school. Like, well, we're going to build another middle school with all these houses being built. We're expected to only be at 65. They only expect the entire elementary body to go up by 5% in the next 6 years, even though we have building going on.
Right.
Because what's happening, Leticia, is basically it's like we have younger generations. There's not as many children being born. People are waiting longer. And so we're not seeing, even though you're seeing like a lot of houses being built, you're not seeing the boost in school enrollment. It's been stagnant, actually.
I was surprised. I just visited Fairsight for a reading, and they only have the little babies now, right? The younger
Yeah,
kids. Because when I
pre-K.
went there, it went up to 6th grade, and now that's not the
Right.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they actually, the elementary school district has actually gave up 2 school sites that they had earmarked for future schools. They decided to let developers have it because they have too many sites, and they said, we're never going to use them. And so they don't even expect to be, they anticipate not needing another school in Galt for about 12 years from now.
Wow. But don't you like that it is staying a small town?
I do. No, I mean, I do. And I tell people, look, we're not, but on the other hand, here's the problem. So the problem with the way our schools are funded, they're funded by attendance, right?
Sure.
So if you have a 10-year span that your enrollment doesn't increase very much, in that 10 years, think about the cost of teacher salaries and the cost of facilities and all that. So what happens is the school districts get into money problems because they don't have enough increase in students to get an increase. They don't get a pay raise, more or less. And so they have to go out for bonds, which the elementary school did. Now the high school is talking about maybe going out for another bond. So these are the problems that you get. It's great that we're not getting too big, but at the same time, teachers want to be paid sufficiently, which they deserve to be. You have administration, you have the cost of, inflation is affecting everything, right?
Oh,
so with all that, our schools get in trouble with money.
Right. And the problem is that the way that the legislature and the state funds schools in California is flawed. And so that's where the districts run into these problems where maybe we have enough money to maintain the school as far as the salaries, but we don't have enough money to repair the schools. And then that's why that's why the districts have to go out and go for bonds. And the bonds usually go just for the repairs of things.
Right.
But, people get tired of paying extra taxes on bonds in a state that's highly taxed for everything else.
And so also too, so how it works is, think about this. If a parent calls in and says, my kid's not going to be at school that day, whether it's an excused or unexcused absence, it doesn't matter. The school loses that money for that day for that student.
That's true.
And so it's a big deal. And that's why these schools keep going out for bonds. They're like, we need money from somewhere, or they got to make cuts. And, where do you cut?
Do you think growing up in Galt and going to school in Galt at the elementary schools, you went to both? We only had 2 at the time.
Yes.
You went to both. You went to the middle school. You went to the high school. Do you think that you got a good education going to school here? Like,
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that I know in life went to private school their whole life. And, I feel like we have like the same values and we learned the same things. And
right.
I really do believe that I had a great education. And more than that, the teachers that were so encouraging and inspiring. And you really felt the love.
Right.
And it was a safe place to come and learn.
Yes.
Like you felt like just so much love. And I just remember the first time I was on the news and having the kindergarten teacher send me an email and say, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, you must have had thousands of students.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you remember that I was one
Yes.
of your students? And it really is mind-boggling to me how teachers remember their students.
I think it's a superpower that teachers have that they remember other students.
Absolutely.
I've literally bumped into teachers like, you probably don't remember me. They're like, yeah, we remember you. And I'm like, really? I'm like, was that like bad or something?
No, I think that's one thing. I think all of us were very, very lucky and fortunate to go to school in Galt with the teachers we had, because besides my parents and my family, my teachers are people that I still to this day have such fond memories of having such an impact on me, and not really like, oh my gosh, they did a big impact, but just like you said, the love and the caring and the fact that, like, I can remember being in my 30s and seeing my kindergarten teacher, and she still gave the best hugs when I at 30 something years old, I turned into a 5-year-old again.
Oh.
Dan, you're just a big teddy bear, Dan.
Well,
come
but
on.
it was just but that's how it is. I've ran into a few of my elementary school teachers over the years, and it's like they remember you, and they're just great people. They really were.
Do you remember, Leticia, do you remember Mr. Salas from Galt High, the math teacher? Did you ever have him?
I do.
So he came to our 35th. I was recently attended my 35th high school reunion for Galt High for class of 1990. That's when I graduated. And he was there.
That's so cool.
And he just gave up teaching like 4 years ago.
He was
he just retired last year.
Oh, last year.
Yeah, last year was last year.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, they just love it so much.
That is so
and there was
cool.
actually 2 other teachers there too. So let me ask you this. Is there a teacher? I know you mentioned in one of your books, and we're going to show some of your books here in a little bit. You mentioned a Galt teacher in one of your books that really made an impression on you, whatever, when your elementary days. And who was that?
It was Mr. Heinrich from 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Heinrich. And so why does what stood out about Mr. Heinrich? What do you think? I mean, I know I read something about the book in your book. It was pretty, I had only read that part today, but.
So growing up, I was a shy girl. Who would imagine, right? Because now I'm now on the news reading to millions of people and, anchoring, a 2-hour show by myself. And like just today, I anchored 4 hours of the newscast. So just to be able to have that platform, to have a big voice, right? But when I was in school, I remember him constantly calling on me to read out loud during English. And I was like, so dreading that. I'm like, why do you always call on me? Like, I thought he was picking on me, right?
Well,
like,
maybe he saw something in you.
Yeah. So that anyway, he inspired me to go home and like practice reading in front of the mirror. I'm like, I've got to get this right. I've got to like speak loud enough and like clear enough, speak loud and proud. And so he didn't tell me to do this, but I just wanted to like impress him. I was like, okay, it's annoying that he keeps calling on me, so let me do it right if he keeps calling on me. So anyway, fast forward all this time, and like he encouraged me to want to pursue this business, even though he never talked about broadcasting. Like just the fact that I was such a confident reader after being in his class, and then just like watching the news growing up all of the time, as we mentioned, KCRA was the channel that my family watched, and not seeing anyone on the news who looked like me and being like, I want to be that girl. I want to represent my community.
Right.
And so like, I feel like he was my biggest inspiration and didn't even know it.
Yep. Right.
I bet the teaching profession is a profession that you probably don't even realize how much of a profound, you probably touch so many people's lives, because you've always heard these stories where a student will come back and go, you probably don't know this, but I remember you, blah, blah, and they'll say something to the teacher that you inspire me to do it. And the teacher's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. They probably touched so many lives especially teachers who teach for 20 or 30 years or more. They don't even realize the impact that they've made, because it's not a tangible at the time, right? It's only after the fact that they realize that some conversation that somebody had, you touch. And so I can tell you, I sympathize with you so much, because let me tell you real quick. I was like, no way was I going to get up in front of class when I was in elementary school. And I hated public speaking. I would never get up. Now, if like, they're like, oh, channel 3 is here or channel whatever's here to cover this thing that's happening, whatever, we need somebody to speak. And all the council members like, I'm not talking. And I'm like, I'll do it. I'm the guy. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Put the camera on. I'm not scared at all.
Yeah, now we can't get him to stop speaking most of the time.
Yeah, well,
it's contagious.
But I sympathize with what you're saying. How you were very shy and very, you dreaded public speaking, and then now you end up being in a career where you are in front of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, on television, and I think it's just something you get over.
Yeah, I think so. You just have to keep practicing, and I just have a page dedicated to him on this. And
yeah, let's see it.
And let's see.
So, by the way, this book is great. It's called
That Girl on TV Could Be Me.
And this is kind of an inspiring, I dig this. This is a really cool book, and kind of inspiring people
to shout out to Galt.
Yes.
In the small California town of Galt, a 5-year-old Latina watched the news. Her mommy tells her, Letty, turn off the TV. It's dinner time. I was that girl. I asked my mommy, why doesn't anyone look like me on the news? Mommy replied, don't you worry. One day you're going to go to college and you're going to be that girl on TV.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. And so then I talked about Mr. Heinrich. I wanted to be on TV, but there was one problem. I was that shy girl in class. When my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Heinrich, called on me to read out loud, I was so nervous. And I spoke so quietly that my classmates all shouted, speak up, Leticia, we can't hear you. And then I mentioned going home and locking myself in my room, reading in front of the mirror for 2 hours. And I said, you can do this. The next time my teacher calls my name, I will read loud and proud. And
that's awesome.
That's what I have done.
One of those moments right there. One of those moments that we're inspired. Yeah. These are cool books. And we're going to talk a little more in depth about specifics about these books and your whole career as an author too. Because, that's a whole, I feel like, and I probably goes without saying that being the author and doing this probably brings you it's just as fulfilling as being, or more maybe.
Yeah, because it's the instant, you're seeing the kids, you're seeing their eyes light up, and just getting a book into their hand. Because I'm not just an author, like we teamed up here in Galt. And I wanted to tell you that when I went to a literacy night that we held at Valley Oaks, one of the kids came up with this book and it was already signed. And I said, wait, this book is already signed. And she's like, yes, you gave this to me with the mayor like 3 or 4 years ago. And she had the book still. And I was like, I guess I don't have to sign it. I already signed it.
Well, we need to do that again. We need to do that again sometime. We should do it this spring when the weather gets better, because I liked how we did it out. It was outside
at the library.
And we had velvet, and I'll get Kirk to come with his ice cream cardigan. We'll have ice cream.
That was a hit.
Yeah, and we'll do all that. That'll be fun. It was really, so what we did, just for those of you who don't know, so her books are bilingual, so it's in English and Spanish. And so she would read the Spanish part and I would read the English part, and we would read to the kids. It was a free event. It was well attended. Tons of kids came and we had a free ice cream, and it was really cool. And it was right on the grass out in front of the library at Galt.
It was so nice.
Yeah, it was like, was it 3? It had to have been at least 3 years ago, because it was my first term as mayor. So 3, maybe 4. I forget, but it was
a big crowd that came out too. I was so excited to represent my community.
So you mentioned college. So you went on to
Sacramento State.
Sac State. Okay. And you got a degree in
Communications and a minor in government.
Now,
So I was like, I have to know about politics since it's
now when you started college, that was the intent, was to get in the news, or?
Well, I wanted to get onto the news, but I was also interested in theater. So I actually signed up for the theater program at first.
I saw that one of your hobbies is you like musicals.
Yeah, so I started in the theater program and I was like, I want to do this. This is interesting. But then I was also called to the communications field.
So were you in any plays or any musicals, or?
So I was never in a musical, but we did some acting on campus and stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
That's interesting.
I always thought that'd be fun. I wish I would have done more of that. I thought it would have been interesting. But again, I was so shy back then. You know what's funny is I have to tell you, I think it's weird. When I read that you had a degree in communications and a minor in government, I thought it was funny because before I was in government, in politics, I actually had a communication company for 20 years. I ran a telecom. I was a telecom contractor. It was communications for 20-some years. So I saw that. I was like, oh my God, I got to have a degree in those things, but it's just so weird to read that. So when you started out, so tell us about your early career. So you didn't start at Channel 3, right?
No, you can't. I was actually an intern.
Okay.
It was a full circle moment because these are the people that I grew up watching, like Dave and Lois, and you talked about Stan. I mean, Stan wasn't there at the time, but when I interned at KCRA, when I went to Sac State, just to see like the experience, they want you to intern to see, hey, do you really want to do this? This business is not all glamour. You know, it's not what some people think. You go in, people do your hair and makeup, and it's like an easy job. This is like a grind, you know, like the hours are a little wacky. You know what I mean? Like I wake up at 2 a.m. Shifts start like at 3 a.m.
Wow.
And so there's different shifts, but like that's the shift that I love is like the morning show, the early morning show. So yeah, like you really have to see that. So I interned there and I got to work with these giants that I'd been watching on television since I was that 5-year-old little girl. And they were so kind and so amazing. And I remember as an intern doing my first election for KCRA, and I got to like get their coffee and get all the paperwork and get the numbers of like the final, countdown. So it was so exciting for me to be able to cover my first election. And I just knew that that was what I wanted to do. And it wasn't like, oh, I want to be on the news. I need to be that person that people see. It wasn't about
You just wanted to be a part of that.
I wanted to be a part of that mix about storytelling, about keeping our community informed, just as you're doing here today. I wanted to give my community a voice and give that unique perspective that I had.
So I think it's doing morning news. I think it's kind of a cool, unique thing because people always think of like the evening news, people sitting in their living rooms and unwinding at the end of the day, watching the news. But really the morning, like some people can you picture yourself like how many people just flip on like the morning news while they're making their kids breakfast and everybody's scurrying around? Okay, get ready to go to school, whatever. And the news is just playing there and they're eating breakfast and they're glance. And it's just kind of like, it's kind of on in the background, right? That's kind of like what I picture the morning news as being sort of.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And we cater to that as well. Because if we want them to see something, we usually say like, take a look at your screen right now. You're not going to believe this video. Like this just happened.
You know what? That's right. You guys do that. That's funny. I never thought about that. It's like, hey, look over here.
You know, the thing about local news, especially people that are on for as long as you've been on, or you're a celebrity, a local celebrity, right? But you're also almost like a friend.
I'm your neighbor,
right?
Yes.
You turn on your friend, and your friend is the one that's informing you because you're there every morning, or you're there every evening, or you're there like. And so it's a comfort. There's a comfort.
Yeah, it's a familiar voice.
Exactly. Right.
Familiar. Yeah. We get so much heat because of, some national coverage that goes on where people interject their personal opinions, but we are your local news. Like you are going to see me at the grocery store. You are going to hold me accountable. I want you to hold me accountable. Right. So, we're not spouting off personal opinions in any way. We're delivering the news in a very,
and that's where the news should be delivered.
Here it is. You make your opinion. We're going to talk to both sides. And then you as the viewer are going to decide how you're going to vote on this issue.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
we're not telling you how to vote.
Right. So you worked at 3 other places for 3 other news stations. 3, is that right?
Yes. So when I first graduated Sacramento State, I was told it's going to be really hard for you to get a job. This is a very competitive business. News directors get hundreds of, back then it was tapes, right?
Wow.
Now you could just send someone a link.
Yeah.
Now you
Here's a VHS tape in an envelope.
and if you see the book, it's funny. I spent so much money as a broke college student.
I read about it too. You said you sent like 200 videos
sending out
to people. 200
videos just to get my first job. I don't know if you guys could see like all the boxes. Yeah. Each one was like $3 to send like a VHS tape.
And I love how you used the Channel 3.
So you landed a job in Elko, Nevada.
So I landed a job in Elko, Nevada, and like they didn't even have a job opening. I'm like, I'm just gonna send.
I broke down
my
in
stuff
Elko,
there.
Nevada.
That's a pretty
There's
desolate
nothing
place.
in Elko.
No, there's nothing there. But hey, I sent my tape to Reno, and they sent it to Elko because they had just lost their morning anchor.
Oh.
And so I get this phone call. This is Jim from Elko, Nevada, and I'm like, wait, did he mean to say Reno? Where's Elko? I was like,
You're like, I don't know where Elko's is. You sure you got the right number?
Yeah, and I had never driven in the snow and went for my first interview, and it was snowing there. And I'm like, but when I was offered that job and I heard it could be really hard to get like a job in California,
you just took whatever you could get.
Yeah. Everybody wants to go to Chico or the small markets.
But I mean, in Elko's, it's a good distance away, but it's the neighboring state. It
was
close
6
to home.
hours away. It wasn't.
Your folks were still living in Galt.
Yeah, they're still living in Galt.
So it was close enough to mom and dad. You could,
Yeah, it wasn't that far. You didn't have to go on an airplane,
right,
so to speak, to go see your family again. So yeah.
So you started as so when you finally got to Channel 3 in 2003, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, we did a little homework on you. We checked it. We checked in.
Yes.
We to make sure.
Did you mention Bakersfield, Fresno, Modesto,
right, yeah,
now
Sacramento? Let's get all of them. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know Modesto. I didn't.
Well,
saw that
it was a part of the bureau for KCRA, so it's still KCRA.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I always think, like, starting out as a reporter, were you one of those people that was like really low on the totem pole where you're like, all right, we're gonna need you to get in a van and go to Donner Summit and stand on the side of the road and freeze, and you're gonna do like a 30-second, we're gonna only show you for 30 seconds and you're gonna be out there in the cold, and you're like, hi, I'm reporting from Summit and it's really coming in right now, and you're like, I always think of those people like, that person's low on the seniority list right there.
You know what? Now it was before, nobody wanted to go, but now it's like there's certain people like
that love doing
Brian
that.
Hickey and other people that really love going to the snow, so they're going to raise their
I could
hand.
see that. I would love doing that. Yeah.
They're going to raise their hand first, and now we have what's called Live Tracker 3, so you can just be in the warmth. We're going to show you the snow from the car,
right?
And we can hop out as we need to. You know what I mean? To show you the visuals.
I think it's funny how they try to make it very dramatic. Like it's like, no, go a little deeper in the snow. Go out there where it's waist high. Oh, that looks great right there. Let's shoot you right there in that spot.
I remember one time as like a newbie reporter being sent there, and then all of a sudden it was like a giant storm, and CNN and all of these national news stations were like, well, we want to get in on this. Will she do a live shot for us? And I remember like not having the right mascara and just like black mascara running all over my face.
Oh no.
My one moment to be like on national news.
Well,
and I look like a raccoon, and like the anchor had such a great time with it. But hey, you know what? I just rolled with the punches, and like we just laughed at ourselves. Like, hey,
funny.
This is the glamour of television, folks.
So someone's asking, where can I get a copy of the books? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that shortly, all about the books and where you can get them. So stay tuned. I did read in your book how you said you were covering some farm or dairy something, and a cow like flipped like cow poop on you or something like that. I'm sure there's many experiences like that.
Yeah, there was.
How important when you go out on the field to a story, how important are your cameramen or women that go with you?
Oh, they're amazing. We can't do it without them.
Yeah,
they're behind the scenes, but they're making us look good. They're keeping
kind of
us
like Kaylin.
safe.
That's Kaylin to us. So we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for my daughter sitting off screen. She's got like 15 monitors and computer screens and keyboards and all this stuff all behind her and headphones. Yeah. So
but they're friends. We're riding in the car with them for 8 hours. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we become like brother, sister.
Yeah.
Or sisters, depending on
it's
who you're
part of
working
your family,
with.
right?
And they keep you safe. Sometimes like when we're working overnight, we get strange people knocking on our window.
Right.
Some people have had knives before, or like just their lives have been threatened. And like, so there's always like, you feel like someone always has your back.
Do you also feel like, I feel like if you're just riding around in a news van, that you're kind of like a celebrity. It's almost like, oh, there goes the president's limo. Like when you see a news van, you're like, who's in the van?
Yeah.
What are they covering? What are they? Like if I'm driving
Yeah.
through Galt and I see a news channel van somewhere in Galt, I'm always like, hey,
what's happening? The world wants to know what's
going on over there.
I used to work at the Yolo County Jail, and anytime you'd come to work and you pull in the parking lot and there was news vans in front of the jail, you just went, oh no, what happened?
You're like, oh,
people
something
always
bad.
think the worst. And I like turning around and saying, actually, we're here to cover a positive story. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're like, what happened in my neighborhood? What are you doing here? And I was like, well, actually, we're just stopping for a bite to eat. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So in a long career, I mean, so you've been with John for 23 years, but you've been doing it total for
25? Yeah.
25?
Yeah.
So in a long career, is there any like and this is gonna be, I know this would be like asking who your favorite kid is, but is there any a story that like,
I was going to ask you that. Like,
Yeah.
is there a story that really, what was the story that you covered or somewhere you went that you look back and go, that was very a profound moment when I covered that story, or it was something that really, something jump out at you?
I think just covering the stories of like victims of crimes or things like that, just getting to know the families. It just, it's hard not to get connected and to feel their pain. For me, that's always like the hardest is talking to a mother who lost a child or going to an accident scene and seeing a car seat and realizing that
is something. It hard to see that stuff and be talking and then they're like, okay, we're gonna go on the air right now, and you're like trying not to get like misty eyed or anything?
It's incredibly hard, especially like even just becoming a mother and then being like, that could be anyone's child. Like I know this news that the family doesn't know yet, and just like I'm just always extra sensitive to like protecting people's privacy, and obviously on the news we would protect people's privacy. We're not going to reveal anyone's identity. Like that needs to be done.
Well, you mentioned
as a human you're empathetic, but you still have to be professional, and so I think that's
definitely
the hard part sometimes. Though I mean, not hard part, but that's the
it's hard not to
there's
get
a balance
emotional.
there.
Yes, for sure.
So you mentioned in your book the one about your TV career, you mentioned in there about one of the profound moments was covering the campfire.
Oh, yes.
When I saw that in your book, I thought, you know what, that's got to be, because I've saw the documentaries on that multiple times and stuff, and what a horrendous situation that was. And with the school buses that the kids were like laying on the floor trying to, and then the whole people were huddled in the middle of the town, like in a parking lot to keep, because the fire. I mean, I rode through there a few months after that. And it was just like, it's like the whole community was just gone.
Oh, yes. And just when I went there and people were sobbing and I was supposed to like just be covering what was happening, and I couldn't help but like reach out and hug them. I'm like, yes, I have to take off my reporter hat for a moment, because the most important thing right now is humanity, is to offer someone comfort who has lost everything. And I mentioned in my book, like the community was so tight knit like Galt that they were like, yes, we lost our home, but we haven't lost our hope. And that was very powerful for me. So yeah, it's hard not to get involved.
I remember I went to an event. It's called League of Cities. And when you're a new council member, a new elected official, you go and there's all the people there, other new council members, mayors, city managers and stuff. And so after the actual sessions that you're in, you kind of go and there's like a hotel and you can have drinks and whatever. So you're socializing with other people. And I remember bumping into this gentleman. He goes, yeah, I'm a council member from Paradise. And he had been a council member for a couple of years, and it was a couple of years after the fires. And I go, wow, I was really intrigued to talk to him. And he said, yeah, he's like, you know what? He's like, we don't talk about parks and recreation. We don't talk about this and that. He said, none of that stuff. Every single meeting that we have council member as a city council is just talking about trying to go after this grant money to repair this. It's like we are in triage mode. That's all we talk about. There's no fun stuff. It's all about how do we rebuild our community. And it's like, it just has overshadowed everything in their community. They're not talking about paint nights or, oh, look at this class, or that we're going to build a new water slide. Like they're not talking about none of that stuff. They're literally just trying to figure out how to keep like the power on and how to get cool. I mean, and that was heavy for me to hear that. I'm like, I couldn't imagine being that, like half of Galt burnt down, how it would just flip your priorities in your mind from what you're talking about. Women. Now that stuff is not important anymore. And now you're focused on like just survival.
I lived in Quincy for 6 years. And of course, when Greenville burnt down a few years ago, and going up there for the first time and seeing it for yourself and seeing that all of the places that you were familiar with are gone. And you knew the people that lived in that house, and you knew the people that lived in that house. And it's just it's so heartbreaking, but then you see they're rebuilding a new house here and they're coming back. It's slow, but they're coming back. And I think, but it's tough. It is.
Did you know that we actually, a council member, Kurt Campion, who was, he's retired now. He was a council member when I first came into office. He was one of the senior council members that was still serving. So we served 2 years together. In his younger days, he was a city council member in Paradise.
Oh, wow.
And then he served in city council of Galt after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great perspective to have on the council.
Oh yeah. And him and I had a brief conversation once about, his thoughts on what had happened in Paradise. And he was like, yeah, it's crazy. So let me ask you this. Before we get off the subject of the news stuff and get on to, talking about your book and your career as an author, what would you say to someone that watches this podcast back, or maybe listening now? What would you say to someone who is aspiring to be on the news or on some kind of, whatever? What would be a piece of advice you would give them?
Like a young person
like let's say a high school student or something that's maybe going to watch this and go, oh my God, it would be great if I could be on the, something. What would you say to them? What would be a good piece of advice?
I would say the biggest thing is to believe in yourself. I mean, there's always going to be people out there that say like, you can't do it. Because I remember when I told some people that I was going to go into the business, they're like, but you're too shy. How's that going to work? Like everybody had their own opinion and a reason why it would be really difficult, right? Like, oh, you're not going to get paid very much money when you start. You're going to have to go very far away. So you hear all of these negative things. But like, I feel like if you really want to do something, even if it's not being on the news, but just following your dream, is just deep down to believe in yourself and to know that no one can tell you what path you're going to take. Only you would know that path. You're going to wake up every day and be hungry for that job. I wake up every day happy at 2 a.m. knowing that I'm going to do something that doesn't feel like work. I'm getting paid to be a storyteller.
Well, look like
you
this,
still
like this.
love what you do.
Yes, I love what I do. I still have that fire in me.
Yeah.
And so your parents might say like, oh, this might not work out because of this.
Right.
But you really deep down inside just have to follow your own
And they're
dreams.
not telling you that because they're trying to hurt you. They're telling you that because they're trying to protect you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to take risks.
Yeah.
I would say take that risk, go to that college far away. I love that I went to Sac State. Don't get me wrong. But honestly, I was too afraid to apply somewhere farther.
Right.
Because I didn't want to be
or like your
far
job in
away from
Elko, like
home.
somebody say, well, I don't want to be if somebody's wanting to get into acting, they're like, I don't want to do acting in Kentucky. I want to do it here where I live. But sometimes you take a roundabout path. You take a roundabout path to get somewhere.
You have to make sacrifices. And like, even just with my job, like you're going to work holidays. You might have to work Christmas. Right. You're going to work weekends, so it's very hard to get time off because like we're always on. It's like a 24/7 kind of operation, but you have to love what you do. I also knew that I wasn't going to like a 9 to 6 job. 9 to 5 job where I'm sitting in an office somewhere for that long. I like to get out and about. And while I do report, I also anchor, and I love that I wear many hats at KCRA. I've also done like traffic, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
I saw
I'm
that.
not just tied down to one role.
Did you do the weather at all once? Because I saw you in front of a green screen on one picture and I was thinking,
it was traffic. It was
traffic. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that hard to do that in front of the green screen? You're like, where's my hand pointing? Like when it's, I don't know. It looks like
it's just more like the computer system. Like, I don't do it that often. So it's like, okay, let me figure out, because I'm also producing this show as far as like my maps. I'm creating my own maps. And when there's something going down, like an accident, I'm crafting that. But I know I have to be on air in 10 minutes. So I'm like juggling, like making graphics at the same time as like jumping in front of the green screen.
So you got to be good at multitasking as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, you were saying, your advice is there's a saying that says, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
And that is so true, because I hear from so many people, like, how do you do what you do? How are you on the news? How did you start a publishing house? How are you writing books? How are you visiting schools? Where in the world do you find the time? But I feel like, yes, if you love what you're doing, then like you guys, you're very busy gentlemen. You're all over the place too.
Yeah, somebody once said to me, they go, you don't just have a full plate. You're holding many plates and they're all full. And it's a good analogy.
And your heart is full because you love what you're doing. No one is forcing you.
For
sure.
Daughter and a sister and and all that. All those plates and all those jobs that come with, life.
And my kids, they love what I do and they come with me, and now they're authors in their own right, award-winning authors.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too in a minute. Yeah, we're going to mention that. That's really cool. I was reading that.
Okay, I have a question too. You've won an Emmy.
Newscaster, that's right.
Yes, and I love talking to that about that with kids. Not to brag, it's very cool to have.
It's a big deal. It's not bragging; it's a big deal.
It took me 20 years in the business to get one. It's not an easy thing to get, and for me, it was really like a win for the entire community and all the little girls and boys out there that dream of one day being in that moment. And if you saw the Super Bowl show with Bad Bunny, not to get controversial or anything.
We got some video, we got some still photos. This is you and your husband, right? When you
yes, when you have the picture that was
we have several pictures. Killen's gonna run some pictures on the screen here every few seconds. So there's one, and you can go ahead and every few seconds show another picture.
What year was this?
that I think it was 2023 or
23. Okay,
yeah.
just a couple years ago.
Yes. So yeah, when I see this moment, I envision like handing this to my little 5-year-old self and saying, that's going to be you one day.
Right.
And that's what I hope to tell other kids, this could be you one day. Just don't give up on your dreams, even if it's not to be on the news, if that's not your dream.
So let me ask, this isn't just like on some little shelf in the back. Like, I mean, this probably has a nice little spot in your house somewhere where you can see it, right?
Front and center. Front and center. Yes.
Right. Yeah, people come over, you're like, oh, come here. Don't mind that. It's just don't mind the shiny object over there, whatever. So there's a picture of you with some of your awards you've gotten for your books. And this was your first book, right?
Yeah, that was my first book that released in 2020, you know, when the world shut down.
Yep.
And at first I wasn't sure how I was going to get this message out to the world because I had a book tour lined up, a bunch of stuff going down with schools.
Then the world just went upside down.
Then the world said, you can't come out because there's COVID. And
so let's backtrack a little bit here as going author. So like you said, we've heard from, this is what you wanted to do when you grew up. So you didn't grow up saying, I want to write books someday. This whole book thing came from, I read that you wanted to expose your children to, to your heritage, right? And you just found that there was a lack of books that were written bilingual and stuff like that. So she just all of a sudden said, well, I'm going to write my own. But is that tell us about that?
So yeah, it kind of happened like that. So I had this great idea for a book. I went on an adventure to Mexico with my children. They have a kite that they said is magical. They believe their kite is magical and has these magical powers. We were there when a storm was approaching. So long story short, there was a hurricane coming. They said, can we go fly the kite one more time? We're going to be trapped indoors for a long time. So I said, okay, yeah, it's beautiful right now. The storm's still far off. We went and their kite flew away like a kid's favorite toy. And we never thought we'd get it back. But in the moment when that community was like putting sandbags up and boarding up the windows because this massive storm was coming, they stopped what they were doing to help these little boys find their kite. And they did find it. So I wanted to write a story about the power of community. And when things happen to kids, you shouldn't feel alone because your village has your back. And that kind of also related to like me growing up in Galt. Like I always felt like my village, my small town had my back.
Right.
So I said, what if I made this a kid's book to just encourage our community to keep going when things go awry.
Yeah.
And when I, said, I'm going to make this a book, I'm going to, pitch it to major publishers. It was my dream to be published by a top 5 publisher. I'm like, this is a great story about community. They're going to want to do this book. And while major publishers said, absolutely, we want to do this book. It's a great story, but does it have to be in English and Spanish? We don't think that there's a market for it because we don't believe that Latinos read, is what they said.
Really?
Oh my gosh. So seriously?
Those words just put a fire in me.
Oh, I bet.
I said, let me prove you wrong.
Right.
And then my husband having conversations with my family, like, you don't need them. Do this on your own. Start your own publishing house and start getting these books out into the world your way. Because also when you sell a book to somebody, like you're selling your story, they could then turn, the characters to be whoever they want to be. And I said, this story has to be authentic to my own children because it was my own children's experience. Right. And then doing more research and finding out that only like 5% of people of color ever get featured in a children's book. And there are very few authentic, books. I'm like, this is great, not just for the Latino community, but for the community who wants to learn another language, wants to expose their kids to other languages in other countries. It's no big deal to speak 4 languages.
Right.
So like, I just thought like, what a great twofer.
So you started your own publishing and it's called what?
Cielito Lindo Books. And that's a cultural song in Spanish that I remember my mom always singing me. And I was like, my mom helped come up with the name. And she's like, that represents culture. That represents pride. It's kind of what you want to get out there is kids not to lose a part of their heritage. Because I remember sending my little kids to school and them coming back and saying, my teacher told me not to speak Spanish. And they were like 2. They were going to like, but we were like, we want to teach them Spanish because we know when they go to school, they're going to learn English. So just getting that pushback, I'm like, you've got to be proud to speak another language.
And this is you here at a school?
I was reading at my kids' preschool.
Okay.
They invited me for their Heritage Day. And so I
Nice.
started reading the book, and that book had just released. I think it was one of the last visits before they shut down the world.
Right.
But the reaction I got from those kids, and the kids saying, "Is Mr. McCall really magical? We believe in his magic."
I have to say, I used to love. So I actually went to a private school in Lodi until the 8th grade, and then I went to Galt High. I lived in Galt, but I went to school in Lodi, and we used to do a story time when I was in the younger grades, and that was like one of my favorite times as a kid. It was like, oh, where and as a kid, the great thing about a book is, and your books have photos and there's illustrations and stuff. By the way, we're going to talk about that in a minute because Killen's an artist, and she was saying they're great illustrations. She loves the illustrations. But when you're being read to as a book, when you're reading read to without pictures, you use your imagination to picture what's happening in the story. I remember vividly the story that I remember the most that was read to us. We did several, but two of them that I remember vividly one was Where the Red Fern Grows. Do you know that book?
Yes.
So you're picturing in your mind what's happening. You're not watching it on television. You're not watching it on an iPad or anything like that. You're just imagining as the teacher's reading it to you what's transpiring it. And it's funny is this kid over here, he's probably visioning something different than because everybody's got their imaginations different. That book and The Secret of Nim. You remember that? You know that book with the mouth? I don't know why. I haven't thought of that name in forever, but it just popped in my head. But story time I'm looking at these kids. I'm like, that takes me back right there. It's really cool.
They were all into listening to it because sometimes they're like, oh, kids who are 2 years old, they don't have a great attention span. It's a like 18-minute book if you read it in both languages. But they sat there and wanted more. They're like, do you have another one to read? And I'm like, well, actually, this is my first book. Now, if I go there, I'm like, I've written 8 books and here you go. Let's go.
But I think like going back to when we were in school and grade school and stuff, like I can remember getting to go to the library on Fairsight, or when we really got to take a special day and you got to walk to the library where City Hall is, and like going to a library as a kid and finding a book that you could take home and that you could read. And that was a pretty big deal back then. Like I think books have always been an important thing, especially for kids.
Books have made a resurgence. So there was a time where it's like, oh, everything's digital. But now I was talking to somebody, I forget, and they were saying it's made this huge comeback where people literally want to feel the book in their hand and the paper. And
I love it.
But you've written your books in both English and Spanish. All 8 books in both languages.
Yeah, in my house, my publishing house is completely bilingual because I just,
nice.
If you don't speak Spanish, that's okay. But the story is still for you. You can still read it and enjoy it.
I have a great niece who's 4.5. She's in pre-K back in Bismarck, North Dakota, and they have started learning Spanish in pre-K. And she came home. She came from school. I was back there in November, and she came home and she was so excited to count to 10 in Spanish for me. Like, and here's this little 4.5-year-old. So I think it's important. I think it's important to teach them, to teach all kids dual language, to be bilingual. I think that's important. And now your books, are there audiobooks of them?
There is, I believe, an audiobook on this one. Children's books, they don't always do audiobooks.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're just paper and.
But I think that would be great if you could do these in audiobooks, because, as someone who's not very bilingual, I took German class in high school only because I wanted to go to Germany. But like I should have took Spanish. But I know in my career I picked up a little bit of Spanish here and there to where I could use it at work, and it came in helpful. But I think that if you had them in audiobooks where I could sit there and listen, okay, here's the English. And then here's the Spanish version, and now here's the English, and here's the Spanish. For somebody like me, it would help.
Adults write
except
reviews.
These are children's books, and you're an adult.
Hey, these are my level. These are written for my.
I have to tell you, I looked through this book in the top here. I read that from front to back for the first time since I've had it at the coffee shop. I've never looked at the whole thing, just read it. And I read through the whole thing, and I was like, this is actually really cool. Yeah, because I was trying to I wanted to look at least one of them from front to back, and I do agree the illustrations are really great too. This one was illustrated by
Juan Calle.
So did all yours illustrated by different people?
Yeah, there's 2 that I work with right now. Yana Popova, she's out of London. She's
out of London. Okay.
Yes, she does a bunch of my books. And then Juan Calle is from Colombia, and he helped with the Octonaut series. So he does a bunch of things for Hollywood, and he's just like, his artwork is so magical as well. It's like. So
Kaylin was saying she appreciates your artwork because Kaylin, have you seen all the cows that we have around Galt?
I have.
She's painted how many of those? 18 of those cows were painted by her.
Sounds like
people
a budding
would
illustrator.
people would
here.
hire her to. Yeah, she loves like anime and she designed the logos for our coffee shop and she's designed like yeah, I could go on and on. She's done this lot of
So
stuff.
creative.
She even did this. She designed these logos, everything.
Growing up in Galt, like we all did, we went to school with a lot of Mexican, kids and stuff, and there's a lot of kids I went to school with who their parents did not speak English at home.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
They spoke Spanish at home.
Yes,
right.
sure.
So I think that's where I think these books are fantastic. I think the fact that you have them in both languages, I think that's the greatest thing ever. And I don't know how any publisher would want to follow through and do that.
Well, they're regretting that now because they've been reaching out like we want a license for your books, and like Hollywood's talking about wanting to make some of my books into movies, and I've won 21 international awards, not just competing with the United States, but competing with other countries.
Other authors come out, or are you seeing them come out with books in dual language like this now?
So actually, I'm not just publishing my own books now. I actually am publishing other people's stories. We're like a legit publishing house.
Wow.
Yeah. And so this book, That Girl on TV, wasn't even published by my publishing house because I was writing it simultaneously. Sure. I sent Mr. McCaw to a publisher and he said, I really like your book, but I like your bio more. Like, I think your book would really inspire the community because there's never been a children's book written about broadcasting. And a lot of people are interested in that. Right. And just your whole story of growing up and being the first in your family to go to college. It's more career oriented. It's not just, a kid's book.
So we're going to throw a picture up of all your books that you've written, and we have one that shows all of them. I just want you to touch real quickly, just to kind of give us a brief, like this particular book, is this what it's called? And this is kind of what it's about. This is the other book. And this just to kind of give us a little quick summary when she gets them up there. So you tell us about The Adventures of Mr. McCaw.
Yes.
And then we have another one, which is, go ahead.
Oh, Mr. McCaw's Paleta Adventure. Paleta is popsicle, if you're not familiar with that term. And that's a sensory board book. And so growing up, I loved like Pat the Bunny, right? And so my kids were obsessed with those books. And I was like, what if we make a book that like kids can feel, kids can touch them. The rocket goes up in this, in certain books. That one, I didn't bring that book, but you could touch the feathers. You can open up this popsicle bag. So it's very sensory-like. And I've had families come up to me after doing literacy events that tell me that's still our favorite book, or maybe our child has autism. Right. They can't say mom, but they've been able to say Mr. McCaw. And so I've had a lot of stories from families who say like, this has gotten their children to speak.
Wow.
Just reading this book over and over again. Mr. McCaw's Lost in the Big City was inspired because Hollywood reached out and they're like, we want to make a movie out of Mr. McCaw, but we want more content. So this story started in Mexico. The kids smuggled their kite, the bird, back to Sacramento, and it goes on a big adventure in the capital city. And that's also a big story about community. And
I noticed a reoccurring theme here with your books is your two sons are reoccurring stars in your books.
Well, they're the ones who inspired that book. Right. And then we have Sister Circle, The Power of a Sister Circle, that came out just last year. And it's really a story about love and friendship and how girls should learn from a young age to uplift each other. So often we're taught to compete against one another, and we just need to like be there for each other. And it's an anti-bullying book where like, if you see a girl sitting by herself, welcome her into your circle. Yeah. She could be your sister too. And I just love that book so much because it features my real life sister friends.
Oh, nice.
Girls, I'm in a character, my real life sisters there. But then there's all these girls that have inspired me from like, elementary to college, to working with them. And like, these are all amazing women who every day we empower each other to do better. And, like you have people clapping for you. We all need people clapping for each other. And then That Girl on TV, which we mentioned, talking about the autobiography, about the news business. Then Carousel King and the Space Mission was a book that my son, when he was 9, came up with this idea. He wants to go to space. It talks about overcoming your fears.
It could be possible in his lifetime. I mean, with all the things that are going on with like Elon Musk and their missions, and then you have all these other private, it's not just NASA anymore. There's all these private businesses that are looking at traveling to outer space. I mean, he very well could do that.
Absolutely. So he just became an author. He said, we need to turn this into a sensory board book. We need to take this to younger kids because I want kids reading from the time they're 2. And so he came up with the shorter version of the story, came up with all the sensory parts for the book.
That was cool.
And so Yeah,
while we're
he's-
talking.
And how old is he?
Well, he's now 13, but he came up with the story when he was 9.
Wow.
So, and my other son, who was 5 at the time, Bronx, he did the anti-bullying book, Super Peanut and the Big Bully.
I read that one a little bit too. That one's funny.
Yeah. And so he was being picked on when he was, 5 years old. And he's like, I've got to write a book to empower kids and to start a kindness movement. And he won like best educational book. My other son has won like four international medals as well. And
Wow.
they not only write books, but they're going to schools with me and giving books away, inspiring kids to read who didn't like to read before.
Mhm.
So for me, it's more than just writing books. It's like a literacy movement where, we're going to get families hooked on reading
Mhm.
around the world.
Right.
So my daughters, so I have 3 daughters. So Kaylin is my oldest, and then my middle daughter is Christian, and then my youngest daughter is Megan. And they vary from like 30 years old to 22. And I know Kaylin did read, but she was always like very into art and artistic stuff and whatever. My middle daughter, Christian, was really the bookworm. She used to read a lot. She would always have a book, that was her thing. And she was very, very like shy, like super shy. We always joke because my daughter Christian, like all of our family pictures when you're younger, like not family formal pictures, but just any picture, we're all smiling. She's like got her face covered. Like she didn't want her picture taken. Now, she's a very beautiful girl now. Now it's just like it's selfies and look at me, and our Instagram's like posing like bikini and all this stuff. Yeah. Oh, she's the complete opposite. To me, trust me, of those days.
From the bookworm.
But she was very into reading and stuff a lot. So,
when I was a kid, I was very shy. I was the only boy and had 2 older sisters, and books were kind of something I turned to. And my sister will tell you, like, I used to always have books to read. Encyclopedia Brown was one of my favorite book stories, and it was but like comic books. I started with comic books, and I think, sometimes, and a lot of teachers are like, oh, you shouldn't read this, you shouldn't read that. I think kids should be allowed to read all of it.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to learn to read. And
right.
It's just about accessibility.
Even if a kid's only reading comic books, you know what? At least they're reading something.
Mm-hmm.
Give them those 20 minutes for school credit for reading that.
Get them off the TV and the digital stuff. And yeah. So you know what books I loved as a kid? And it's a concept of a book that I liked. And I think that I'm sure that somebody maybe has recreated something now, but I used to love the books that were called Choose Your Own Adventure. Do you remember those?
I don't.
So
that sounds fascinating.
No, it's really fascinating. Maybe this is an idea for you. So they had this one that was called, one was called like there was like a space one. There was one called The Great Race, and there was one like the jungle. Like one was like one was called the Aztec Adventure or something. So let me give you an example how they worked. So you'd start out and it would start out the story, and you're reading, and then at the end of it say, you come to the ancient pyramid and you've moved away the jungle. Your friend says we should go in. What do you do? If you like to go inside the pyramid, investigate, turn to page 14. If you want to instead look around the back or do something different, page. And so you would get to decide what you want to do. And then so you're bouncing back and forth throughout the book. Mm-hmm. And they had different endings. There was different alternate endings. So you could read the book more than once, and it had different endings. You remember those books?
Well, that's what the Encyclopedia Browns were kind of like that.
It's really cool concept.
You go to here or here to
so you literally, the kid has a choice of how to direct the story.
I love that. Yeah. And I also offer workshops, and I go to schools and like I teach kids how to do creative writing, because I'm like, I don't want to be a gatekeeper for this. This is something that I wish I knew I could have done when I was younger, and just, going to different school districts and crafting these books with these kids. And like in an hour, they will whip up a book. Like we'll give them these white books that like they can just create the cover. They're coloring the cover. They're writing their story from as young as TK. And I just love that, like all of their wild ideas or beautiful ideas, like this could be a real book.
Yeah. I just think it's great that here you've had an Emmy award-winning career as a newscaster, and now you've got this award-winning career as an author, as a children's author, and it's not just you though, but you've included your sons in there, and your family's involved, and I just think all of that is just fantastic, because most people would say, well, I've done enough here, but it's like.
But I think the difference is, honestly, is the broadcasting is something that you love, and it's something that has gave you a career and has made you, for lack of a better word, has made you famous in some respects. But the book thing is more of a legacy for you. right? You've created a legacy.
And I didn't even,
and you're doing like we talked about with teachers, where you don't know, you really don't know how these books, you don't know, like the book about bullying, you don't know how many lives maybe, or a child's life that maybe read that book that has changed their life. You'll never know, but that's the legacy that you've left. More so, honestly, a lasting legacy than your time on the news station, right?
Absolutely. And I just feel like just the access part of it is so important for me. You know, I want kids to have these books in their hands and to not have to worry about the cost of it. Like to team up with partnerships where like you have sponsors and like the kids are going to walk away with a book that they're going to keep for a lifetime, and a book that might inspire them to one day write their own story, not just overcome their fear of reading, because not every kid is good at reading. It takes a little bit of extra time. But when I'm coming to different communities and talking to these kids and they're like, I own all of your books, and they love looking at the back and they're like, I own that one. I own that one. I still need that one. But like, just to see the fire in them, like wanting to read, wanting to connect, and coming up with their own stories and saying, you should put this character in your next book. It's just been so amazing.
Well, because kids have such great imaginations. I mean, you know, they could probably, you know, here we are like struggling. Like I would imagine for me to write a book, be like, okay, well, what do I write it about? You know, kids are just, their imaginations are so wild. They could just come up with this, you know, just the opportunities are endless. They probably have 50 choices of what I could write about.
Absolutely. And
so,
I go in.
Where can you, before I forget to ask you, so where can we get, I mean, some of these are in the Galt library, right?
Yes, some of them are in the
And
Galt
then, but if
library.
somebody want to purchase your books, where could they go to purchase your books? Are they on Amazon?
They are on Amazon, and I just landed a national distribution deal with Barnes and Noble.
Oh,
and
so, congratulations.
Yes. So like I was doing all of this out of my garage and shipping out of my garage.
Wow.
And now all of a sudden, like, you know, I'm getting like retailers that are like, we want this to go national. We don't just, you know, some stores have already carried it locally, but now they're like, this is going to be like a bigger.
Wow.
So they're gonna. So at some point in the near future, they'll be on Barnes and Nobles.
Well, they are now.
Oh, they're on Barnes and Nobles now.
Yes.
Great.
So
Okay. So
I
Barnes
just
and
saw
Nobles.
Sister Circle at Barnes and Noble on Arden Way. So yeah, if you don't see it, if you don't see it there, you can request it. You know.
Do you like walk through and you're like, do you ever like look your husband? Look, that's my book, and your husband's like, yeah, I know that's your book, honey. I know you wrote.
No,
that.
this just happened. This just happened. I just literally walked into the Barnes and Noble and saw the book there because it just released.
So we put a link in our bio on our Instagram page directly to your publishing house. Should people, Kellen just did that.
Oh, that's
should
terrific.
someone want to go and purchase directly through that? So.
Oh, I love that.
That's so cool. Like, yeah, I actually, you know, I mean, we were excited to have it because, like, you know, the news anchor and all that. But I actually think, you know, the whole publishing side of it is really, for me, is like the bigger piece of the story. Like, it's just awesome. I would be, that's got to be some really like, what's the word for it? That's got to be very fulfilling to go into like a bookstore and be like, that's my book. There's one. Like, I mean, I don't know. That's awesome.
Even more fulfilling than walking into that bookstore is like just seeing those little faces light up when I go. Because my favorite thing to do, my favorite thing to do is like doing assemblies. Because then, you know, like when, you know, just the gratification and the ideas that come, and like kids to tell you, after reading your book, my class stopped bullying each other, you know, like, or to hear that message of like, you know, your story inspired my school to be kinder. And so like, it's just like a bigger message.
We do live in a world. I know 2 of your books, the Sister Circle and obviously the you know, the Super Peanut. Those are about bullying, right? We actually had a young girl who was on our podcast who was bullied through school and, you know, was, you know, thinking about committing suicide. I think it actually made a couple attempts. We had her mom on talking about, we were trying to bring awareness to bullying and in that one particular time frame. I think we just live in such a different world now. You have young kids. My kids are all out of school, but bullying with the digital age and the access to photos and pictures and how you could say something mean like, oh, Leticia, you know, she's so ugly, and that could just spread around, you know, to everybody's phone in the school in like a matter of seconds. When back in the day, you know, people had to say something and had to like spread you know what I'm saying? So it's so much more prevalent. I think bullying is so much more prevalent nowadays. It's so much easier to bully someone and to be bullied. I mean, the schools are literally dealing with bullying that's happening outside of school. Like, for example, they're saying, well, if a student says something bad about or puts a bad picture or something on somebody's social media, that's not really school. I mean, social media is not the school. They're not doing it at school, right? But they still can be held accountable for it. So they're having to deal with these really weird nuances with bullying now. And it's a crazy world out there right now.
It is. I think we all need to do our part. I mean, if books can help you be kinder to each other and
Right.
just like we did a thing called Sister Circles. I went to Texas and we went all out. The superintendent joined in, other counselors joined in. All of these girls in middle school joined these circles, even though that's a children's book. It's a topic that like, you're dealing with it in middle school and high school. We joined these circles and girls who didn't like each other joined the circle. And by the end of the session, like we broke down, like, so what's the reason, like it was all like, well, he said, she said, somebody said this, but they came together and realized they had more in common. And at the end of these sessions, we were together for like 2 hours. The girls ended up all hugging each other. Girls who didn't think they liked each other got to the bottom of like, hey, I never got to know you as a person. I was just making a judgment based on what you look like or what someone else told me you said about me. But just it was such a powerful moment to see these girls in tears saying like, let's just come together. Why we go to the same school and we don't like each other. Like, wouldn't it be a safer place? And your heart would be full if we came to school and we all uplifted each other. So to have that moment from this book was so powerful.
I think the whole world could use a little more kindness.
So I have something I was asked to give to you, Leticia, by someone. And so do you know her? She goes by Italy. Do you know Italy? She is the girl that works for the Galt Herald. She's a reporter.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think you probably are a role model for her. She said she did a story.
Oh my goodness.
She wanted me to make sure you had the copies in case you already haven't. This is the story she did with you. This is from January, obviously this year. So you may or may not have this already. But
no, I don't. I was going to actually send you a text message and said if
she
there's
came
a
by
copy
today
out
and
there,
said, "Can you make sure she gets these tonight on your podcast? So take those
I'm
with
so
you."
Happy.
Yeah.
Yes, I was like thinking, how do I get a copy of this? Like I know it was a couple weeks ago.
Yep. So she asked me to give this to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So is there any? So give us a sneak. Is there any books in the works right now that we could give
always
give us a sneak about one of them? Give me. You don't tell us a name, but is there anything you can tell us? It's something that's.
So my next book is going to be a STEM book for girls and boys, just career oriented. It's just so much fun for girls to see themselves. And like, we don't always see ourselves as these engineers, and it's just like different careers that kids could be, like discovering how to be a paleontologist and just, the little things that you're doing now as a kid that are going to shape you to what you really want to be when you grow up.
Good advice.
From beginning to end, how long do you think it takes, like from the time you write a story to the art and what do you think?
It's a long time. It could take up to 2 years. And that's even for traditional publishing.
Wow.
Because from the time that you have an idea, you write a manuscript, you're not just going to write it once, right? Even when you turn in an essay at school, you hope to do it more than once. You have a rough draft. And then you look at it again, and then you send it to your editing team, and then you look at it again. You're like, how do I want to change this? You read it to focus groups, you read it to children, like our kids connecting with the story. Cause we're adults and I get all of my ideas from my kids because you really know when it hits them. You know what I mean?
Right.
They have a lot of great ideas.
Yeah. Your sons influence you and your stories and your what you do heavily.
Yeah. And then you contact your illustrator and you share your vision. And a lot of my stories are based on true life. So I'm like, this is what I want this character to look like. And this is what I want this character to look like. So we just all come together as a team and then just printing this book. But like from start to finish, I would say like 2 years.
Wow.
My husband is actually joining the author family because the kids are authors. He's releasing a book about Earth and the environment on.
I was going to say, hubby needs to, get busy too, right?
Hubby got to it, but he's been working on his book for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So we started this series, Could Be Me. So that girl on TV could be me. His is that environmental crusader could be me. And we're going to do different careers just for kids to see. Like that doctor could be me. That football player could be me. Like just the different careers that are out there for kids.
Right.
But yeah, it takes a long time. But I feel like I don't want to rush a product and I don't use AI. So I'm never going to use AI for my illustrations or my story writing. I feel like you lose the heart of the story.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to do it the old fashioned way.
There's so much of that right now.
Yeah. You don't know what's real. I can tell when something's AI and I'm just like, I'm not going to buy this book because.
But I mean, just kids writing things like people are, we had some not to get off subject real quick, but we had some teachers on and we were talking about the impact of AI and technology on our students and stuff. And we were talking about some articles we had read where they were saying that 50% of college students right now admit to using ChatGPT to write stuff for them and cheat. 50%.
That's a lot. And I also, if you let that do it for you, then you're going to forget how to write.
No,
You know
they
what I
did.
mean? Like,
They did 3 groups. So it was like, I forget what university did this study, but they took 3 groups of people, and over a 6-month time frame, they said these people are allowed to do the library, and that's it. Just real basic old school research. One person was allowed to use Google and search engines, but they can't use AI. The other group was allowed to use anything, Chat GPT, any of the other AI programs out there, any of the large language model stuff, any whatever. And then after that 6 months, they quizzed the 3 groups, and the ones that had access to all the AI, whatever, completely failed all their cognitive tests and stuff.
well, even
They
when you
didn't
go to
absorb
write
anything.
an email now, you're like, it tells you what you want. You want the
Assist
email to
you,
say, I'm
wants
like,
to
I don't
assist
want
you,
this
yeah.
assist. Go away.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
writing my own
Yeah.
email.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy
Yeah.
world going forward. It's scary, and I'm glad that you're trying to keep it. This person says, I'm writing a book, not close to done. Any advice on publishing process? Sorry if this was addressed earlier.
It wasn't. I would just say keep going, keep writing it. The biggest thing is you're already ahead of the game. A lot of people that I talk to, I think like 90% of people in the world want to write a book, but only like 10% actually make it happen.
Or they just get part way and then give up.
Yeah, but books are evergreen. So I always tell people, like, if you had something that you started 10 years ago, you could still finish it today.
Oh, think about, have you heard stories about how like somebody had written a movie, and it was like some famous actress like, oh yeah, I wrote this movie, but I wrote it like 25 years ago and just had it in a drawer, and then they bring it out and it ends up being some big hit. And it's like, so I don't think there's a shelf life on stories.
There isn't. Keep going, keep writing that book. You're already ahead of the game, as I said.
So he's asking about the publishing process. I mean, it's a daunting thing. I mean, I can imagine how many publishing houses just get a ton of things sent to them.
Oh, absolutely. Some won't even accept your manuscript if you don't have an agent. So there's so much gatekeeping going on. But there is also something with Amazon that you could do. I don't do this, but people can publish self-publish on Amazon. You really want to be careful. And I would say don't skip any steps. You're going to want to have a professional editor look at your work. Don't put out a book that's going to be full of errors just because another family member looked it over and thinks it's perfect, because that's your name, that's your reputation. You release something, even if you try to take it back and resend it, people are going to remember and not see you as a credible author. There's so much AI right now on Amazon that you really you're going to stand out because you're writing your own book.
Right.
And these are your words. So, if
I feel like we talked about this too with the rise of AI. We feel like in the future that there's going to be this, you're going to see this transition where everybody's like, oh, this cool new program that does this. Chat GPT is so phenomenal right now. It creates music, it writes songs. I mean, Dan was having it write songs in like a matter of minutes. We're like, if you're a songwriter, are you like scared right now? Because how it's just taking over everything. But I think you'll see the pendulum will swing back the other way. And what you'll start seeing in the future is people will gravitate towards a book that was actually written not using AI. People will gravitate towards a painting. They want a painting that was painted by a real person with brushes and real paints, not just some digital image, the AI. People will gravitate towards things like, and this is a little different, but I was making a joke where because I went to a restaurant the other day and everything was kiosk. You have to order using the kiosk. I was so upset. It took me 10 minutes to order. And I think that what you'll see everything transition to kiosk and everything will be automated and all that. But at some point in the future, you'll get to a point where somebody will go, Leticia, have you been to that new coffee shop down there in Midtown? They have real people, human beings take your order, and they actually make your coffee. Like, it's not a machine. They make your coffee. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go check that out. It will be like a fascinating thing for people. People will gravitate towards that.
We're going to miss that connection if it's all, digital.
Yeah, but it will go. We're not done going to that point now. We're going to get to a certain point before it'll start going the other way, I think.
Absolutely. I say, like, you can't ignore AI. It's out there, but use it for things that could benefit you. Like, if you're like the person that's asking, how can I get into the publishing world? Well, you can look up what publishers will take something that's not like unagented work. So like you can use it to like benefit you in certain ways, or like, how can I write a news release about, like, it can walk you through steps, but don't ask it to write your book for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's good advice. Good advice. I wanted to mention this a little bit earlier, but I forgot when you were saying don't let anybody, your advice to people that might be watching or will be watching this in the future was don't ever give up. Don't let people say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. I recently read an article about Tom Brady. Tom Brady was drafted 199th in the draft.
I
He was
saw that.
he was literally like nobody wanted him.
The last man.
He was literally the 4th-string quarterback for the Patriots until he had his opportunity. If there's not if there's not a better story of someone being told you can't do this, you can't do that, or you're never going to be whatever, and then become like, one of the greatest athletes who ever lived. I mean, that's a perfect example of don't let people tell you can't accomplish something.
Well, I think rejection helps you because I know I got a lot of rejection when I first wrote that
because
first
it makes
book.
you. I think it does. I think it makes you
more
better.
hungry, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? You're
Yep.
going to analyze yourself, but also don't let someone telling you that that's not good work like get on you, because it could be. You know what I mean? Like someone might not like a book, but another person is going to love that book. Do you know what I mean? There's a market for you out there, and if you think you have a good book, chances are, other people are going to enjoy it and want to buy it, but they're going to want to connect with you as an author to have an authentic story and using your authentic voice.
Well, we are going to, before we close out the show, I wanted to mention a couple things that I didn't want to forget about saying. We did want to mention a big shout out to a couple sports things that happened today or in the last few days. So history was made. The Galt High School's wrestling team captured their program's first ever league championship for Galt High for wrestling.
Go Galts!
So congratulations to the girls. Yep. And then on the Liberty Ranch side, the boys basketball team for Liberty Ranch, and I believe the girls as well, are undefeated in the league right now.
Yeah.
They just won their games. And so I believe that one of them, and I apologize, I don't have this information, but I believe one of them maybe did win league, or they're both.
Well, I think they both have one game tonight against Galt.
Okay.
Which they both should probably win. And
yeah. And then of course the boys soccer team. So the Galt High girls soccer team played Liberty Ranch, and the varsity won 2-1, and the JV won 1-0. And then last night was a big rivalry between Galt and Liberty Ranch for boys soccer, and the JV won 4-1 and varsity won 2-0. And so with that win, Galt High boys soccer won their league.
The league,
nice.
Liberty was actually in first in the league before last night's game, but Liberty has a tie, and Galt doesn't have the tie. Liberty beat Galt earlier in the year, so by Galt winning last night, we
have some phenomenal sports stuff going on. Yeah, Liberty Ranch is their basketball,
which I think
teams
both teams are still going to be in the
phenomenal.
playoffs. So that, we'll see how the playoffs work out for both teams. But
so Liberty Ranch's basketball programs have been phenomenal. They're just crushing it. And then on the soccer side, Galt's program, well,
and
Liberty as well.
One thing I want to say too, because we hear like this all the time, Liberty this and Galt this, and we're all residents of Galt. It doesn't matter what high school your kids are going to. We're all residents of Galt. So everybody that lives in Galt should be proud of the kids and their accomplishments, regardless of which school it is in town.
That's true.
Yeah. So I do want to give a shout out before I forget to do this. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, the Galt Chamber of Commerce, Velvet Grill and Creamery, Chandler Gross Group, Frontier Performance Lubricants, River Rock Brewery, Parker Realty, Casey Boarding Insurance, NorCal Spreading, Azevedo Quality Harvesting, Mr. Sean Farrell, Spawn's Cookie Company, Ward Engineering, Best Western of Galt, Next Generation Barbershop, King Sound Productions, American Paving Systems, Laheim of Galt, Mariscos Las Islitas, and Electric Hair Studio. Thank you so much to all of you. I promise you next week we're going to start going back to doing some more of our sponsor features where we'll dive into and talk a little bit more about some of our sponsors a little more in depth and give you guys some publicity. This week we don't have the time, but I want to thank you. We really, really appreciate
the way he just read that. Do you think he could be a newscaster?
I think yes.
That was pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. So we were going to do a trip. So we were going to give something away on the show. So Leticia, have you thought of something that we could ask the public that we could give away? Anything you come up with?
Does anyone remember who my favorite teacher was?
I was thinking of that same question.
Okay.
So here's what we're going to do. The first person who's in the chat puts up the name of Leticia's favorite teacher that she had as a youngster is going to win a packet of her books. It's going to be one of each of your books. Is that correct? Is that what we're going to do?
Yes.
So you're going to put in a packet of the 8 books. You could give them to your son, daughter, yourself. You can gift them to someone. This is a very nice package of books. I mean, the dollar value is probably, I don't know what the books cost, but
if you don't have someplace,
$20.
Find a little library someplace.
Yeah.
Put it in
So
a little neighborhood
first
library.
person to throw it up in the chat, name the name of the teacher. We will give you a package of 8 of Leticia's books.
You know, he unfortunately passed away. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I learned that.
He was. I never had him as a teacher, but he was a teacher when I was in school, and really,
yeah. And if no one, there it is.
They got
Harry Wenzel, Mr. Heinrich. Congratulations, Harry.
Great listening skills.
Yeah.
Yes, Harry's one of our loyal viewers. So Harry, if you want to come by the coffee shop and pick those books up, you can do that, and then you can gift them to someone. I know Harry, I think, has grandchildren.
That's terrific.
And so you can, I'm sure they'll find a good home with Harry. Harry's a very smart, intelligent guy. He comes to the city council meetings and speaks to public comment a lot.
I love it.
He's always really infatuated with the
Congratulations,
financial.
Harry.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, I want to say again, we want to thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off? And you want to shout out to anybody?
I just want to say thank you to Galt. I'm super proud to have been, from this community. I'm always going to talk about Galt and being proud to be a Galt girl, and just thank you for your support. You've always been my village. And even though I live in Sacramento, still the county, my heart is still with Galt. So just know that. And I hope that children out there who see me succeeding can know that they can succeed as well. Don't let any challenge get in your way. Just plow through it. You've got this. Believe in yourself, and you also will do good things, and never forget about your community. Always come back and give back. Thank you.
Great advice.
Thank you.
Great
Thanks
advice.
for being here.
Thank you, both of you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know you're super busy, so thank you so much for giving us your time. We appreciate coming back to your hometown and sharing your information.
And it's probably way past her bedtime too, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, she was up at 2. I wasn't
That's
up
what
that
I'm
early.
saying.
So.
That's her bed.
Oh yeah, her bed. I
Oh,
looked
no,
at me.
no.
I'm like, don't look at me.
No, I have
Yeah.
kids. I don't ever get to bed before 10. So.
Yeah, what sleep? Yeah.
I want to remind everybody we do have some great guests coming up over the next few weeks. We have Sacramento County Supervisor Pat Hume. He's the District 5 Supervisor for all the Sacramento area, at least in our district. He will be on to talk about things that affect Galt. We also have the Sacramento County District Attorney, Tin Ho, will be coming on. We're talking about some crime-related topics, which will be very interesting. And we're also going to have some local business owners on the show. So stay tuned over the next few weeks. We have some exciting shows coming up. Again, thank you, everybody for watching. We will see you next week at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. Have a good weekend. Have a good night. And we'll see you all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
On the mic, Sean and Ben, talking small town life where it all began. Galt's got charming stories to spare, from the city news to the country air. The great American little town, where the news is small but the pride's profound. Grab a coffee, sit back, it's all going down on the great American little town. Sports scores, local clubs, and a parade. Dan cracks a joke, Sean throws some shade. Local gossip and a heartfelt cheer. It's Galt's heartbeat right here. The great American little town, where the news is small, but the pride's profound. Grab a drink, sit back, it's all going down on the great American little town. Sean and Dan with the hometown spin. Tune in weekly and you're all in the great American little town.